What's up, guys? I know you missed me. It's been a whopping 2 days, 3 days since you've seen me. But don't worry, you don't have to look at me for much longer. Um, Tonight, we're talking e-commerce. So I know you guys want to build those websites and you want to start selling stuff, but there's a lot of logistics involved in that. And we found the perfect person to teach this class, you guys. Uh, it is so important for people that are having these e-commerce sites to do it correctly the first time. I don't know if you've ever tried to build a website before, but it's not the easiest thing in the entire world. I've dipped my toe in there, and then I had to reach out to Erica and be like, what the heck is going on? Because I don't understand any of this. So if that's you, if you've got the questions about building that website, Erica is going to be the person for you. So we're going to pull Erica up on the screen. But until we get started, I want to ask you guys real quick, if you could introduce yourself in the comments, let us know what kind of business you have, what you're looking to learn out of this class. And ask questions along the way. That's why we're putting this class on, so you guys can get the answers that you're looking for. And if you guys already have e-commerce sites up and going, drop those links in the comments too, because one, I like shopping and I want to see what you guys are selling. Two, but we also want to be able to, look at your sites and see how they can improve. So let us know, drop those links in, drop the comments in. I'm going to be monitoring the comments all night. And honestly, you guys, it's a party up in the Square One house tonight. There's Megan. There's Brandy. We're having a good time. Unfortunately, Erica is not here with us, but we're going to pull her up on the screen and we are going to get started very soon. Hi, Erica.
Hey, okay, I'm totally jealous that y'all are having a party there and I'm just here by my lonesome self.
I mean, we've got snacks. This is how we do it at Square One. So, maybe hopefully sooner than later, we all get to be in person again, and this class gets to happen in person with real people in seats, and we can share snacks along the way.
That would be amazing.
All right. Well, I'm going to fade off into the background. We're going to give you the entire stage. And of course, if you have any, questions, just like wave us down. Megan's going to be on top of everything, and I'll jump back in here and we can have an awesome class.
All right, thank you. All right,
Thank
hi
you.
everyone. My name is Erica Martin. I am the owner of Pixel Jam Digital. I run a web development and design company and work with small businesses. That's my favorite, both small businesses and smaller nonprofit organizations who are trying to grow. And I'm sure, as you are well here, a lot of us, especially in the past couple of years, have come across the necessity to build an online store of some sort, whether it's to mirror your brick and mortar store or if it's to just start selling online because you haven't before. Either way. So I'm going to have a presentation. I will have pausing spots throughout the presentation. So feel free to ask questions whenever. You can pop them in the comments and I'll be sure to check, and then I'll pause between sections as well. I've also created a handout that Square One will be passing out later that has links in it, a lot of notes and everything. So please feel free to take notes, but just know those notes will be shared with you at a later time. So I am going to go ahead and get started, and we're just going to talk about the need for e-commerce. So if you're not already familiar, e-commerce is electronic commerce. It's shopping online. It's what I do when I can't sleep at 2 a.m. and I scroll on my phone and I buy things, and 4 days later they show up at my doorstep. And so really it's just giving the means to consumers to purchase goods or services online, kind of giving them like that 24/7 shopping experience. So for those who aren't aware how much e-commerce has really grown over the past 12 years, it has gone up 18% total. And so 18% is like, okay, Erica, how much is 18%? That sounds like a really small number. But when you're talking like in 2010, that was 165 billion. Yep, that's with a B. So still a lot. But now as of 2020, it was $861 billion. So tons of growth. And that's just in the United States for retail spaces. That's not global increase. So anyway, e-commerce continues becoming more important. Then between 2019 and 2020, so we're going to talk about the pandemic, e-commerce in the United States grew just like 32% between that year, and then increased another 6.8% from 2020 to 2021. So it's not slowing down. It's still growing. And it's really become necessary for businesses to start selling online, which is why we're here. And it's like, great, Erica, I know I want to sell online, but I don't know how to do that. So first, I want to talk about the different e-commerce platforms that are available for you to set up, whether it's on your website or kind of like in conjunction with your current website. Just kind of checking notes here. All right. So what we're going to start with first is Squarespace. So Squarespace, if you are or may not be familiar, Squarespace has a website plan that starts with about $18 a month for a business. But then when you want to add e-commerce, it gets up to about $26 a month. So there's your known cost for just running your e-commerce store right there. Squarespace is a really great platform for smaller businesses who have a small amount of very simple inventory. So when I say very simple inventory, maybe you might sell t-shirts and a user will need to select small, medium, large. Maybe you might have, 20 to 30 products that are pretty basic, but you're not going to have a lot of variation. You're not going to have any type of event ticketing, and you're not going to have like really advanced custom orders that you need to collect. So Squarespace is fantastic for just a simple e-commerce system. A nice perk about Squarespace there are no additional transaction fees that Squarespace charges you whenever someone pays through your website. So I'm going to get a little bit more in depth in this next section about processing fees and payments and transactions and all this stuff. But just know Squarespace is like a great basic option. It now also has a new built-in shipping management. So we'll talk about shipping here in a little bit. But whether you want to use USPS, FedEx, UPS, Squarespace now has that as different offerings. The drawbacks of Squarespace are that when it comes to payment processing, you either have to accept money through PayPal or through Stripe. So it becomes very limiting if you're using something like through your bank, or if you're using Square, which Square is different than Squarespace. Square's that little like Square dongle that you can connect on your phone and swipe credit cards to. So you couldn't use that to do transactions through Squarespace. So that's why I say it's great for getting started, great for simple inventory, small scale store, just getting started. I'm also going to say it's better than Etsy, and I'll give you my hot take on Etsy here in a little bit. So then we have WooCommerce, which WooCommerce is going to be connected to WordPress. So if you have a WordPress website, WooCommerce is going to be your best solution. And what's great is WooCommerce is technically free. So if you're like, I have this WordPress website, I want to add e-commerce to it, you go and install the WooCommerce plugin free. No extra charges there. It's fantastic. So you're just looking at whatever you're already paying for hosting there. It's great because it's fully customizable. You can integrate it with almost any payment gateway, and also has options to connect to a point of sale. So that would be a terminal that you would have in front of you if you were taking in-person payments. Some drawbacks are a lot of those customizable features end up costing extra down the road. So how I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to have a special subscription box that you sent out monthly to your members, but they could customize their subscription box, and there were different levels and there are different items that go in it. You would want to buy a plugin that already specializes in that, so you're not writing the code from scratch, which I'm guessing you probably don't want to do. And so those fees can end up adding up. They're usually annual fees, like $50 a month, $80 a month, a year, $50 a year, $80 a year, but they do end up adding up over time. So I say WordPress and WooCommerce e-commerce shops are best if you have inventory that really needs to be customized when someone's ordering, or if you already have a WordPress website and you want to go ahead and connect your e-commerce shop to that. So then moving on, We have Shopify and or BigCommerce. A couple years ago, even 1 year ago, BigCommerce was not really as well known, but they really ramped up their features and their offerings. And so now I find them very comparable to Shopify. They cost about the same price per month. They have all the same features. And it just kind of comes down to personal preference. So the cost for either Shopify or BigCommerce, you're looking at starting price about $29 a month, with the higher end being $79 a month. So that lower end gets you to where Squarespace was, like I mentioned, but that $79 a month can add up pretty quick. It really depends on how many transactions you anticipate having per month and what features you want. Shopify and BigCommerce are both built for large scale e-commerce stores. So if you're planning to have 500 or more items in inventory, if you don't want to have to worry so much about a custom web design and you really just want to focus on selling a lot of products, that's where Shopify or BigCommerce are going to come into handy. They also have a lot of integration options. So if you do have a storefront and you have that point of sale system, that terminal to sell in person, Shopify and BigCommerce can connect to a lot of those point of sale systems already. So then you're only having one source of inventory, one source of products, and it makes it a lot easier for you to manage in your administrative tasks. Some drawbacks of Shopify and BigCommerce. They charge additional transaction fees depending on who you want as your payment processor. So if you're going with either Shopify or BigCommerce and they're processing those payments, there's no transaction fee. But if you want Stripe, Square, and again, we'll talk about more of those options here in a second, they all cost a little bit extra. And so when I say extra, you're looking at anywhere between 3 and 5% per transaction. So it's not too much, but it certainly adds up. If you have a lot of transactions or if your items and inventory have a higher price point to it, that 3 to 5% is going to get increased pretty quickly. And then similar to WooCommerce, integrations can cost a little bit extra. So if you're looking to add a plugin or an app to enhance some of that functionality, you might be looking at an additional annual or monthly payment in order to enable that. So that's why I say those two, Shopify and BigCommerce, are best for large scale e-commerce stores that have a lot of inventory, or they already have a brick and mortar retail base or point of sale system that they're looking to integrate that way. So, okay, now I will give you my hot take on Etsy. So yes, Etsy does technically count as an e-commerce platform. It is free to set up a shop, but they do charge you 20 cents per listing. So for every item you post in your store, they charge you 20 cents. Now, I will say the benefits are they make it so easy to get started. You can post a product, pay that 20 cents, and pretty much you're good to go. You can get a store set up within half a day. Like it's that simple. And the nice thing about Etsy is they already have a very dedicated target audience, a very dedicated customer base who are searching for products that are probably related to what you're selling. So getting into the market is a little bit easier. But to me, from the small business ownership side of things, that's where the cons outweigh the pros. So Etsy now requires an additional 5% for every transaction as a processing fee, on top of an additional 3% if you're selling through Etsy payments. So that percentage can add up pretty quickly. Etsy also limits seller visibility. So it's based on like how often you post products, how often you sell products, how fast you respond to someone messaging you, where your shop is located, what your star ratings are on your shop. So if you're brand new, you're going to be really like on a higher page number if people are searching for your product. And then at the end of the day, you don't have ownership over your store. Etsy's independent. They could shut down their services and then you would have to start fresh. You have no ownership over all of that, which again, as the small business owner, I think is a huge drawback, but it's kind of up to you. If you're wanting to get started and you're testing this proof of concept for some products, then I do think Etsy definitely has its place. So I am going to talk about payment gateways next, since I mentioned those quite a bit here. So just before we start, I am going to check to see if there are any questions that I should answer real quick. Not seeing any questions yet, which is totally fine. We have plenty of time for those. So let's get on to talking about payment gateways. So I mentioned this earlier, how some systems charge extra depending on the payment gateway. I threw out Stripe, I threw out PayPal, I threw out Square. So what is a payment gateway? A payment gateway is a third-party system that's going to handle your credit card transactions. And one of our keywords of the class, it also is going to provide PCI compliance. So that PCI compliance essentially is a mechanism of security. So if a customer is entering their credit card, it guarantees there's going to be a secure transaction. The great thing about using a payment gateway, because they're a third party, is they take all liability and responsibility if there's any sort of credit card or security theft. So then you as the small business are not liable for that, so yes, you're paying anywhere from like 2 to 5% per transaction for a lot of this, but essentially you're paying for that peace of mind knowing that if something were to happen and there was a data breach, you as the business owner are not liable for someone getting a hold of that information. So it aids in preventing security breaches to prevent credit card theft. But if that does happen, you are not liable. So payment gateways are a great thing. Some common payment gateways, like I mentioned, are PayPal. So I'm just going to break down a couple of these. There are a ton out there. I would also highly encourage you to talk to your bank, whoever you have your business account through, because sometimes they'll have their own payment gateway set up and you can kind of get like a deal going through them. So first one's PayPal. PayPal charges for a business, and this is not a nonprofit because they do transactions differently for nonprofits. PayPal charges 3.49% plus 49 cents per transaction. So every time you sell something through your website, they're taking 3.49% plus 49 cents every transaction that goes through your website. PayPal is great because it's really easy to get set up. You do not need what is called a merchant account. So a merchant account is something, like I mentioned, your bank would be providing you, saying you are a business that is selling goods or services and you have a special type of business account. So you don't have to have a merchant account with PayPal. It's really easy to set up. And you can also send and receive invoices. So if you're more of a service-based business and you're not always selling products, by being able to set up and use PayPal, then you can invoice people that way for your services. They do have slightly higher transaction fees compared to some of the other options, with very limited customer support. And with that limited customer support, if there's ever an issue with the transaction, PayPal can freeze funds for up to from days to weeks until that transaction gets all figured out and everything. So that's kind of a drawback if you're really looking to have that money directly deposited into your account for that quicker turnaround. Sometimes it can kind of be delayed if there's any type of issue there. So next, let's talk about Stripe. Stripe, I am biased against. I really like it because it is also very easy to set up. Stripe, you connect with your bank account, and so they charge 2.8% plus 30 cents per transaction. So a little bit lower rate than PayPal. It is really easy to integrate with almost any e-commerce platform. You can do it with Shopify, BigCommerce. You can do it with Squarespace. You can do it with WooCommerce. So it makes it really attractive just because you can integrate it almost anywhere. Plus, it has fantastic financial reporting. So here in a little bit, we're going to talk about sales tax and all of that stuff I know we don't want to talk about. But when it comes time to report your sales taxes and provide all of that financial information, Stripe does a really good job of you just being able to generate those reports, download it, and send it along to your accountant. You can also order a card reader. So if you're looking to do some in-person transactions, maybe like a pop-up or a craft fair or something where you're not doing them real frequently and you don't need like a huge point of sale terminal that's clunky, you just want to take a quick payment through your cell phone, they have really inexpensive card readers that you can purchase through your account, have it, and then take in-person payments that way. So with the drawback of Stripe, compared to having a merchant account and going through your bank, it is a slightly higher processing fee, but certainly not the highest. Similar to PayPal, money can take a few days to be deposited. Usually it's about 2 to 3 business days. So if you were selling on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday, you might not get those funds until later in that following week. And then what I personally think is the card reader does not easily integrate with some other e-commerce platforms. So if you're trying to take in-person payments and you're expecting this like really seamless experience for yourself when it comes to managing inventory, it does not have that. It's better for just like services and products, mainly that you're planning to sell online, not as much in person. Then there's Square. So Square, again, different from Squarespace. Square is that lovely Square dongle that has become really popular. They charge 2.9% plus 10 cents per transaction, so a little bit lower rate there. Square does not have a very sophisticated website builder, but you can buy into that as an additional feature. And so the appeal of that is you can sync all of your inventory together where you're whatever you're selling in person or online, which makes it really easy to do. And they give you a free card reader. So if you plan to do those pop-ups or craft shows, that makes it really handy to do in-person transactions. They also have very robust financial reporting, even to the point where they will provide automated tax filings for you. So let's say if you don't have an accountant, but you're not feeling really excited to submit your quarterly sales taxes for all of your sales, then setting it up to automate through Square could sound really nice. There are some extra fees involved. I don't remember what those are, but it's an add-on that you can have as an extra service. And then also, just like I mentioned with Stripe and PayPal, sometimes that deposit can take a day or two. And also they have limited integration. So if you're wanting to do some like really customized store using Square, then you might find yourself slightly limited there. So next up, we have authorize.net. Authorize.net is going to be something that you could set up through your bank. A lot of banks support this. It does require that you have a merchant account. So again, check with your bank to see if your account is set up like a merchant account so you can have authorize.net set up that way. Now, you can set authorize.net up without a merchant account, but there's different fees that apply. And so the pricing structure is very different. So authorize.net costs $25 a month, so more of a flat fee, plus 10 cents per transaction. So you have that flat known fee plus a lot lower per transaction fee. It is one of the most secure payment providers out there because it does directly connect with so many banks. And it has lots of integrations between websites, e-commerce systems, and also POS systems. So if that is something where you plan on having a point of sale to do in-person transactions, it has a lot of options there too. Plus, it lets you accept not only credit cards, but you can do ACH transfers or even an e-check. So an e-check is like a virtual check someone could write and send to your business, and it's able to accept it that way. Now, I would say the biggest drawback with authorize.net is at the end of the day, you need someone to help you set that up. So a lot of banks have a point person if they do offer authorize.net to help you get this set up. Or if you're working with your web developer, you can have them set it up too. But it just requires some more advanced knowledge between systems, which is why I say like it's nice to have a developer or someone else be able to set that up on your behalf. So then I want to make sure to talk about Venmo for Business because Venmo is very popular, and note that I am specifically saying for business. So the basic Venmo platform is for peer-to-peer only. So it's, like if I'm paying my mom back because she bought something for me. And their terms of service explicitly state it may not be used for business payments. So as of last July 2021, if you are using just the basic Venmo app for business and Venmo sees that you're using it for business, they can put a special charge on your account. So they really want you to sign up for Venmo for Business, which is pretty inexpensive. So that's great. But there could be penalties involved if you're using just the basic Venmo app to collect as a business. So their Venmo for Business account is 1.9% per transaction plus 10 cents. So not quite as low as authorized.net, but definitely lower than, say, PayPal or Stripe or even Square, which makes it really attractive. It is extremely easy to set up. I would say you can have it set up within a couple hours. You just connect it to your bank account. You generate the QR code for people to scan. You can send out your Venmo business handle. So it makes it very easy. The only drawback really is, and they're working on this because I have been reading updates, there's no tipping option. So if you're wanting to tip someone through Venmo, or if you're wanting to be able to collect tips through Venmo, that's not quite there yet. It doesn't have great resources for tipping. And also those bank deposits can usually take about 3 days, but it's after you request the money. So a lot of these like PayPal, Stripe, and Square, just it's automatic, like 2 or 3 days after you get that transaction, you receive the money. With Venmo, you have to go in, manually request to receive that money, and then they send it to you, which takes about 3 days. So a little bit of a lag there. And so my pro tip with all of the different payment gateways, some payment gateways, not all, definitely check them out, have a prohibited list of products that go against their terms of service to sell. So if you're wondering, like, what could that possibly be? The biggest one I've seen recently is with CBD products. So not THC products, but CBD products. A lot of these payment providers will not allow you if you're selling some type of wellness product that includes CBD in it, because it's technically on their banned products list. So if they see that any transactions relate to that, they essentially kick you off as a merchant. So just something to be aware of. And I do have a link if you want to learn more about what are some of those prohibited products to sell. There is a comprehensive list that I've linked to in the handout that you can look at later. So before we get into sales tax, let's see if there are any questions. So feel free to comment with any questions you might have, whether it's about those e-commerce platforms or about the payment provider. Oh, and the link was added to the list of restricted businesses. I just added the one through Stripe, but it's pretty much the same between PayPal and Stripe. All right, let's talk about sales tax, which I know you're so excited for. Can hardly stand it. So the basics of sales tax. Like I said, I'm going to talk very basics here. The sales tax is going to consist of state, county, city, and district taxes. The reason I put district in there is, so say, for example, in the Kansas City Plaza, stores in the plaza have an additional sales tax on top of the state, the city, and their county sales tax. So it is something to be aware of based on where your business is located. I know in my area, we have several districts throughout our town. And if your business is in one of those districts, you have to pay an extra sales tax to the district for whatever your goods and services are. So sales tax generally depends on, when it comes to e-commerce, where you're shipping the product to, or the service. Well, it wouldn't be so much service, but where you're shipping the product to. So that gets into something that is called sales tax nexus. Again, fascinating stuff here. So sales tax nexus is a connection between you, the seller, and the state that where the purchase is made. So say that's Kansas to Missouri, Kansas to Arizona, Kansas to California, Missouri to California. It's that connection from state to state. So it's based on where the item is being shipped to, not billed to. So I say all that because if you're opening an e-commerce store, odds are you're probably going to be selling to more locations than just your own town and kind of your surrounding area. So it is really important to know that sales tax nexus exists. So when you're collecting sales tax, you can be aware that the sales tax is going to differ depend on where you're shipping that product to by customer. So that kind of gets into the sales tax calculations. A lot of the e-commerce platforms I mentioned previously have either automated sales tax calculations that will do it for you. So, say for example, WooCommerce, you can enable that sales tax. So, when someone in California is buying something from you and you're located in Missouri, WooCommerce figures out what that sales tax needs to be. You're not having to manually go and set that up or configure any of that information. And then, like I mentioned with Stripe and Square, when it comes time to determining how much of that sales tax you need to pay to the state, it can do that financial reporting for you. So at the end of the day, it says, hey, here's how much you collected in sales tax and how much needs to be paid to the state of Missouri, for example. And so it takes care of that. So then just kind of always what I want to mention when it comes to sales tax and Nexus is that you will always have sales tax Nexus in your home state. So if you're selling Kansas to Kansas or Missouri to Missouri or Nebraska to Nebraska, you're going to be charging sales tax and you'll need to pay that sales tax back to the state. So just kind of a pro tip there. Again, I know super fascinating stuff with all the sales tax, but I think it's very important to at least be aware of. So what's taxable and what's not taxable? That's always a question I get. So a general rule of thumb is you should collect sales tax on anything that's considered tangible personal property. So while I'm teaching my classes, I always have my lovely fidget, my pop fidget with me. This would be considered something that you would pay, the consumer would pay sales tax on because it's a tangible item. However, services and digital downloads are not technically taxable. I say technically because there's always caveats everywhere. But so if you're trying to figure out what do I charge sales tax on, a product or an item is going to be taxable, a service or something digital is not going to be taxable. So then how the heck do you even charge sales tax? How do you even pay for sales tax to the state? So my pro tip is talk to your accountant. Your accountant or your business attorney are going to have like the best solutions for you, where to go, who to contact, who to get set up through. But essentially at the end of the day, you're going to want to have to register for a seller's permit. So in different states, sometimes it's called a resale certificate, sometimes it's called a seller's permit, but it's essentially giving you permission to collect sales tax, and it gives you another number on top of your EIN or your federal business ID to collect sales tax. So the important parts are you want to collect sales tax and you want to report and file those sales tax collections. So I have 2 links of amazingly fascinating videos, no sarcasm at all, on how to remit sales tax both in the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas that are in the handout. So if you're wanting to figure out that and you have a couple hours ahead of you where you plan to stay awake, watch those because they'll kind of give you the basics of how to collect and remit sales tax within your state. So next, let's talk about shipping. But before we get into shipping, are there any other questions that you've thought of, whether it's about e-commerce platforms, sales tax, or your payment terminals? Oh, here's a great question. Okay, speaking of Venmo for Business, didn't all of those online payment methods change their sales tax rules? PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, etc. I'm not quite sure what you mean by sales tax rules. If you could please elaborate, Hannah. I just want to make sure I'm fully understanding your question correctly. But they are, and Cash App is a little bit different too. So that's a good question, throwing that in there. But essentially, when it comes to, and I'm just checking it again, collecting sales tax, it's going to get more into how your e-commerce platform is set up to collect the sales tax to begin with. So the rules I know of is more with regard to reporting, but definitely please elaborate so I can help answer that question better. And I'll give it just a moment in case, Hannah, you're typing because I know there's always some delay. I know you're typing, Hannah, so I don't want to rush you at all. Oh, okay. And then, yes, we shared that payment app providers now must issue you and the IRS a form. Yep, 1099K on your business transactions. So that is a great point, because I know for Stripe and PayPal specifically, they will issue the 1099K depending on the goods and services that have gone through your transaction. So in some cases, like you, they'll issue the 1099K directly to you, whether it's digitally or they send it by mail. It kind of depends what you've opted into there. But yes, that is a great tip, because a lot of those payment app providers will provide that. So you have to go in, log in, and download to get that information. So definitely, if you're watching either on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you might be, follow that more information about the business transactions, the 1099K, and what those payment app providers provide by default. Okay, let's see. Follow up to your question. Seems like you would want to use something like Stripe instead of cheating the system. Don't want the IRS after you. LOL. Yes, 100%. And that's a lot of why I am teaching this class to talk about sales tax. I personally do not find sales tax that fascinating, but it is a necessary evil. It has to be done. If you're not remitting that sales tax, even if you're if you're a small business and you're just getting started in November, you maybe have 2 sales. And so at the end of the year, you're thinking, I don't need to, turn in my sales tax. I only had these 2 sales, or I don't need to file, or whatever. No, you still need to file as a business, especially if you have that seller's certificate, to just show that you had very low transactions or not a lot of income. Because at the end of the day, the IRS needs to have all that information. So yes, you want to make sure you're using either authorized.net that comes through your bank, or a payment provider that has all of that information for you, so you're not trying to collect it manually. And Hannah, please let me know if I did not answer your question fully. But we'll go ahead and move on to shipping and talking about shipping carriers. So I'm going to highlight the top 3: USPS, so mail service, UPS, and FedEx. DHL and some of those others can have a little bit trickier integrations for the e-commerce platforms that I talked about. So that's why I'm going to talk about what I call like the big 3, or the top 3. So USPS, I see as the best option for inexpensive rates, because that is going to be the lowest price anymore. With the pandemic, I'm sure we've all experienced that shipping has increased. So now for even flat rate services through USPS, you're looking at the lowest of about $7.50, which is not that low compared to what it used to be. However, compared to UPS and FedEx, sometimes those prices, that lowest price is going to be more like $15 or $20. So USPS provides the lowest cost option. Another great thing is that they have free shipping supplies. So if you as the business want to use USPS, you can go to their website and register as a business, which is completely free to do. And you can order free shipping supplies. So those shipping supplies are branded with USPS, but you can get flat rate boxes, shoe boxes, padded envelopes, mailers, all sorts of things delivered to your place of business for free, which I think is pretty great, especially as a small business. It lets you save on shipping supplies. Obviously, they have a lot of convenient drop-off locations if you're wanting to take something to a drop-off location, but they also now have a scheduling pickup option online. So if you are operating the business out of your home and you were just shipping like a couple small boxes every day, you can go online and schedule a pickup, and your mail carrier will pick up at your doorstep, and you can just set them outside. I know from personal experience. And so it just makes it really handy, because if you're trying to manage a business and do administrative work and sell products and do all the things on social media, it's just nice that you don't have to run the errand and go somewhere for that pickup. It's just day-to-day mail carrier will pick it up. Also, as I'm sure we know, drawback with USPS, sometimes slow shipping times, maybe not the most reliable shipping times. Sometimes they get delayed. But again, I think it's best if you're looking for a low cost option. So then I am going to skip ahead real quick to FedEx, because to me, FedEx is on the opposite end of the spectrum. They have some fantastic, reliable delivery. They offer great international options, but they are also going to be the most expensive option. Even if you're shipping in state, say you're going from Kansas City to to St. Louis in Missouri. Even though it's just kind of like across the state or so, you're still going to be looking at about $15 to ship the item. Even something small, like in a small box, less than a couple pounds, it's still going to be around $15. So it can get really expensive really quickly. So then I'm going to go back to UPS. So UPS to me is like the middle ground. They're not the most expensive, but they're certainly not the cheapest. It depends on the day whether or not they're the most reliable. They also have great international shipping options. I actually think they're one of the better carriers for international shipping. Say if you're shipping to Canada or Mexico or something like that, doesn't have to be, Europe necessarily, but they have really great international shipping options. For a small box, like I was talking about through FedEx, say if it's $8 through USPS, $15 through FedEx, you're looking at like 11 to 12 through UPS. So again, not the cheapest option, but they do have pretty good reliability. That's what I usually recommend as the default if you're not too concerned about costs there, just because on average, they're more reliable than USPS. So then let's talk about shipping platforms. So kind of like we were talking about e-commerce platforms and the payment gateways, there are also shipping platforms that you can make use of. So 3 that I recommend that I think are really great are ShipStation, Shippo, and Pirate Ship. Although it is important to note, Pirate Ship is currently for USPS only. It doesn't do other carriers. But what these shipping platforms do, it allows you to track and manage all of your shipping orders in one centralized location, which is really nice. So you can see as orders are coming in, what their individual order status is with regard to tracking. You can print your shipping labels through them. Some of them, like ShipStation, you can even schedule pickups through. And they also give you discounts on shipping. So with ShipStation and Shippo, they usually charge either per label or there's a monthly charge to it. So because you're buying into the platform, they give you a pretty steep discount on shipping, which can be really nice. And it lowers some of those fees, especially if you're using someone like FedEx as your carrier. So then what it also does, it also creates all of the order tracking for the end customer. So if that's something you're concerned about, using one of these 3 will automatically send emails to your customer, give them order status updates, and automate all of that. So that's not something you're having to do also. It's not something that you have to do to incorporate a shipping platform, but it can be an advantage if it's a process you're trying to automate or be a little bit more hands-off on. So then let's get into shipping strategies. Amazon ruined it for all of small businesses, of course, with their 2-day Prime that is free, because it has caused a lot of customers to expect really fast shipping and really cheap shipping, which is why I like to mention shipping strategies. So the go-to typical one is real-time shipping rates. So this is where the shipping rate is going to be dynamically calculated based on the volume and the weight of the products that are being purchased in your store. So, if someone's buying a sticker that's really small and you can use a small padded envelope for it, you're not going to pay $10. You're going to pay whatever that small envelope charge would be. So it's going to calculate those rates dynamically. Another option is to just go flat rate. So like I mentioned with USPS, if you're doing a flat rate box, it's usually around like $7.50 to $8. So you could just put always $8 shipping, and just everything you ship out, if you have something as items that aren't too heavy or too bulky, it'd be really easy to do that flat rate shipping on. Then you're not having to dynamically calculate shipping, and it's a little bit easier to manage those shipping rates. Some stores like to do free shipping with minimum. So that's something they build into their pricing strategy, where they know like orders over $50 or orders over $100 get free shipping, because they know that with their item markup, they're going to recoup a little bit of those costs with whatever the markup is of the product. So they don't really have to worry about what the shipping charges are going to be as often. And then is always free shipping. So like I mentioned with Amazon. So I would say this is best for bigger items or items with large margins is with free shipping. So if you know that you have a pretty good markup and a pretty good margin on a particular item, and you can essentially eat the cost of shipping, then just having always free shipping would work really well. Or if you have huge items. So when I say huge items, I'm talking about like shipping furniture or shipping something that's more than 20 pounds. Then, you're going to have a known shipping costs that's going to be more kind of like in the freight category. And so maybe it's somehow built into your pricing strategy already. So just kind of something to think about when it comes to shipping. I know it's one of those things you wouldn't expect you would have to put a lot of thought into, but at the end of the day, when you're trying to set up like, okay, I'm ready to sell, I'm ready to set up the actual ordering process, how do I configure my shipping? They're just things to kind of keep in mind. And then with international shipping, like I recommended, UPS is really great for international shipping. USPS does offer it to Canada, but it's kind of tricky to maneuver that. And then FedEx also has great international shipping options. So just something to keep in mind if you do choose to utilize shipping internationally, is to make sure you have some resource for what is called the harmonized system codes, so HS codes. If you're shipping something internationally, you are going to have to create additional documentation. And a lot of these shipping platforms will do that for you, but I'll ask you what type of product is this? And you have to enter the HS code to let them know like it's a toy or something like that. So just kind of a heads up. And like I said, it requires that extra labels, extra documentation. Sometimes, depending on the product, you might have to pay extra taxes or duties. But again, it depends on what you're shipping and where you're shipping to. So all just things to be aware of. That's pretty much it for shipping. So next up, I want to talk about inventory management, but just real quick, going to check questions. What about tape? So tape does not come free through USPS, which is darn. The most cost-effective source of packaging tape, it kind of depends on what you want to do, because then you get into like the whole recyclable materials or not. So if you're okay with using inexpensive plastic tape, Uline is a great source. You do have to order in bulk. And when I mean bulk, you're ordering like 20 things of tape at a time, but it makes the price per roll really low. If you want to be more sustainable, there are some paper tape options where it's like a paper and that you just dampen and it has the adhesive on it. Sticker Mule has fairly inexpensive paper tape that you could get customized with your branding, or you can also use Uline for just like plain that craft paper brown look of packaging tape. But unfortunately, USPS does not offer free tape, but I feel you there, always going through tape. Okay, so next up, let's talk about inventory management. And honestly, I'm going to rank inventory management right up there with sales tax. It's not something we want to do. It's not something we want to think about, but I'm going to highly recommend you do take it into consideration. So inventory management is the process of how you're sourcing, storing, tracking, and shipping your products. So you know when you're receiving inventory, where that inventory is going to go. This is going to be especially critical if you do have a brick and mortar store, or you're also selling in person in addition to online. So you're not managing two sets of inventory at any given time. And really, this just helps to increase your efficiency, increase and improve upon your processes, especially so you can forecast through busy seasons. I know a lot of e-commerce sites usually have a big uptick in the fall, prepping for the holidays, prepping for, Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving sales. So this helps you predict, what items are going to be the best sellers, what items were the best sellers last year, when does your busy season essentially start. So it just really helps you track all that, so then you can reflect upon it later. So what my minimal recommendations are going into managing your inventory is, the first is creating a SKU for each product. So a SKU are those series of numbers, a stock keeping unit. it is alphanumeric. Really, you can make it up to be whatever you want it to be. So if you're curious, like, okay, Eric, I don't know how to create a unique identifier, look it up on like Google or something, and they'll give you like different methods. But essentially, it's just a unique identifier. So you know, if you're selling a t-shirt as a size small in the color black versus a t-shirt that's red in a size medium. Like, it just kind of helps you keep track of all that information. And then setting up inventory levels in your e-commerce shop. So for that reason, let's say I'm selling these pop fidgets. I'm not, but let's pretend. So if I'm selling these projects or pop fidgets in person and online, but I only have 20 available total, I want to make sure I know what that inventory level is. So if I'm doing some type of pop-up in person, I know I have 20 pop fidgets, but if I'm also getting online orders at the same time, I'm not running out and creating a backlog or a mess of back orders for a certain item. So it just helps you maintain those inventory levels both internally and externally for your website. Or, which I know we all hope happens, is that we go viral on TikTok with our product and overnight you have like 20,000 orders. I know that's the dream. So that way, if you don't have 20,000 of a specific product, you don't have 19,000 unhappy customers who tried to order something, the website said it was available, and it turns out it's not available. So just in case that happens, it just prevents you from creating, like I said, that backlog of orders when the product becomes unavailable. And then, like I mentioned, why would you create a SKU or that stock keeping unit? It's going to help you organize your products. It's going to streamline reporting and inventory management. So like I said, if you have a red shirt in a size small that you run out of, but you know you have a ton of mediums, that way you know you've run out of the size small and need to restock that, or that it's out of stock altogether. And so that's just going to help you manage things long-term for your e-commerce business. So real quick, are there any questions about inventory management? And then we're going to talk about point of sale. Okay, so I'm going to piggyback, Hannah, off of what you said for a second. So I like that. So Hannah, you said, I like the Amazon tape because I can rip it open without getting the scissors. Makes me feel like Hercules. Love it. I know exactly what you mean when I've received Amazon packages as well. So yeah, that's like that paper tape usually, I think it's what it is. And so pro tip that's not in the slides that the Square Up team's probably rapidly typing as I say this, but if you have your retail certificate or your reseller's permit, you can register to get wholesale items for your business. So Papermart is a really good example of that. Papermart has a lot of options. I don't think Sticker Mule has it. So it's essentially a way for you to get a discount on pricing because you'd be buying as a business instead of buying as an individual. So I was just piggybacking off of what you said, because like if you were going to Amazon and just buying all of your supplies through Amazon, which yes, are very cheap and they can be very cheap, you might end up getting it cheaper just by taking your seller's permit, entering that number into something like Papermart. So you're registering as a business, because then you're going to be able to buy bulk items at a much lower price than even what Amazon would provide. So that is a pro tip that is not in the notes anywhere that I should probably put in for a future note. So just FYI, if you do have that seller's permit, definitely look into Papermart is fantastic. I've used them quite a bit. Sticker Mule is great, but I don't know if you get a discount through being a business. But then there's some other very similar shops out there that essentially give you a discount for being a business. So look there first if you have your seller's permit. Thanks for adding that pro tip on there. All right, so let's talk about point of sale systems. So point of sale is POS, but different POS. It is any device that allows businesses to accept payments in person. So whether I'm really talking about that Square dongle, I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of like a point of sale. You're being able to take transactions in person. It is very convenient for accommodating both online and in-person sales, whether you have a brick and mortar retail space, you're doing craft fairs, and it's like a pop-up situation. But ideally, in the perfect world, setting up your e-commerce business, your e-commerce shop, whatever e-commerce platform that might be, would directly link with your point of sale system. So you're managing all of your sales tax, all of your inventory, all of your products in one centralized location. It is not something you have to do by any means, but it just makes it really easy at the end of the day for you, because you're just, everything's in one space. All of the accounting, all of the money, all of the inventory, all of the order tracking, all of it is just in one hub for you. So if you're trying to piece together your e-commerce store and you do have a brick and mortar, or you are anticipating selling online and in person, definitely take that into consideration. Like, what would make it easiest for you as the business owner to do all of these sales, but then you're not having to manage different platforms after those. And not all POS systems are going to connect with every e-commerce platform out there. So if you already have a POS system in place, look and see what e-commerce platforms are compatible. Vice versa, if you're already looking at a certain e-commerce platform, see what point of sales would be compatible and kind of link it that way. So you don't have to do one before the other, but it is important to take both into consideration. So with that, the next step, instead of like point of sales and selling in, or point of sale and selling in person, would be social selling. So social selling, I'm really going to focus on selling on Facebook and Instagram. There are a lot of different marketplaces you can sell on, but these are kind of like the top two at the moment, Instagram being the hot one. So when you set up a shop through, so I'm going to step back for a little bit and assume you have a Facebook business page for your business. So starting there, what you're going to want to do is you can enable your store through your Facebook business page. And because Facebook also owns Instagram, if you have an Instagram account as well, you can sync the two. So whatever you do in Facebook automatically syncs with Instagram. Makes it a lot easier there. So what it does is it allows you to tag products from your store in your photos, in your videos, and in your posts. So that way, if someone's scrolling and sees you posted your spectacular pop fidget, usually you're going to see like a little white dot pop up on Instagram. And if you click on it, it's going to take you directly to your website where they can check out and buy that product. Or on Facebook, it has like a little shopping bag icon, and you click on that and it takes you to the website so they can buy the product. So it makes it really easy for someone to purchase through social. You can also create collections for customers to browse, like within your Facebook page. So say if you were wanting to go ahead and curate an upcoming Valentine's Day collection of certain products, you can also create that within Facebook and then just promote that product collection through Facebook and Instagram. So again, you're just making it easier for yourself to sell on social. And there are 3 ways to get this fully set up. Totally depends on the e-commerce platform you're using, of course. So the first way is to what I call like self-serve or manually. So it's manually adding each product into your Facebook and Instagram shop so they're all there so that you can tag products. Not ideal, but it's totally possible. Then if you're using something like Shopify or BigCommerce, you can add an app that does it for you. So anytime you add product inventory, then it's going to automatically sync to your Facebook shop. So that makes it great because you're not having to really do anything except what you're already doing is adding the products to your shop. And then if you're using something like WooCommerce, it's going to be what's called an API integration. Really, it's just a plugin that Facebook has. You download it, put it, and connect it to your WooCommerce and enable it. And again, pardon me, whenever you create a product in WooCommerce, it's going to automatically sync to your Facebook and Instagram page. So really easy when people are scrolling and you're trying to promote a product. You get that little icon that pops up, and if they click it, it takes them directly to the website. Now, it is important to note between Facebook and Instagram when you're setting up the shop, there is an option. So if it's going to ask you, do you want people to check out through Facebook or Instagram? And you are going to say, no way. You want people to go through your website, because Facebook and Instagram are going to take an additional cut on top of whatever your transaction is. So like you're already paying your transaction fees, say they're like 3.5%. Facebook is going to take an extra, I think it's around 4% cut on top of that. So don't have them check out through Facebook or Instagram. Make sure they check out through your e-commerce website instead. And then the other thing I want to make note of is for Facebook Marketplace. So Facebook Marketplace has made it really easy to advertise their online inventory. However, it allows people to haggle and negotiate pricing. So if you list an item in Facebook Marketplace, kind of like you're thinking with Etsy, like, okay, people might already be browsing for my products here and I want to meet them where they are. It allows them the chance to drop the price. So if you're selling something for $10, they might come at it with like $8 or $7 or, say I want to waive shipping. Not really ideal. I don't necessarily think Marketplace is the best option for small businesses, but there is an opportunity to sell on social there. So before we get into e-commerce analytics, I wanted to see if there are any questions about social selling or point of sale systems. Yes, the tip on not processing through Facebook and Instagram. It's sneaky. Like you have to go and set that option very specifically when you're setting up your online shop. But it's a great way to still capture all those social sales without having to pay them. So yes, I'm full of lots of tips tonight. All right, so we're going to get into e-commerce analytics next. Now, as a developer, I love the data stuff, but I also understand if it's kind of more up there with the sales tax type stuff. So when you're setting up your website, I always advocate for you to go ahead and set up Google Analytics as well. Google Analytics has great features that give you insight into how your users are using your website. Sometimes it shows you room for improvement. Sometimes it shows you areas you're doing fantastic on. All great. So with that, enabling e-commerce tracking will also help capture some of your sales. So then you can trace back like where your users are coming from versus what's selling and how much has sold for all those different traffic channels. So traffic channels could be if they're searching for a product through Google and find you that way, if they are coming from Instagram and shopping that way, all of that different information. And so, because as a business owner, I know you have a ton of time to spend just on the administrative side, it allows you to kind of look at that full conversion funnel. So if you're wanting to really up your digital marketing game and do some more paid digital advertising, you can look at like, okay, where are my customers coming in? Where are they purchasing? How are they using my shop before they complete a purchase? What is my abandoned cart rate? If you're an online shopper, you've probably received those emails before, like, oh, you left something in your cart. Don't forget to come purchase it. Or maybe like, here's an extra 10% off if you come purchase it since you left it in your cart. Something like that. Like you can track all of that data and information by incorporating these e-commerce analytics. So some data points to consider because there's a lot of them. So the ones I recommend looking at first, if you're really wanting to dive into this data, one would be, how do customers discover products on your website? Are they using the search field because you can capture whatever they're searching for to find a product? Are they drilling down through product categories? Maybe they're like filtering through specific product categories because they kind of know what they want, but they don't know the exact product. Or maybe they do know the exact product. Maybe they've clicked on one of those Instagram shops. They've clicked on it, come to the product page, and that's how they're getting to the products. Like all things that are really important for you as the business owner to take into consideration. Another one would be, do more people purchase on desktop, tablet, or mobile? Because at first glance, if you look at analytics, you might see that, okay, you have a lot of people coming to your website via their desktop. So that's like a big computer or a laptop computer, something a little bit bulkier. But maybe you find that they're actually processing their payment on mobile. So how is that experience different? What is the checkout process different? Is the checkout process clunkier on desktop? And that's why more people convert or purchase on mobile? What could be causing that? Also, what I think is a really important one, since we were talking about social selling, what social platform do you make the most sales from? So again, looking face value at the data, even looking at your vanity metrics, those comments, likes, something that's not actually translating over to a purchase or conversion, if you will. But maybe you see like you always have way more engagement on Facebook, more people like it, more people share it, more people comment on it. But when you look into the metrics, you actually sell more products through Instagram. So even though you have the higher engagement on Facebook, it could be worth looking into and understanding like, okay, but people are purchasing more through Instagram. So I really need to focus as the business owner on pushing sales through Instagram more, knowing people are more likely to convert. There's even been some instances where if you have like, say, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and I know it all adds up, but where businesses see that they get a lot of traffic from TikTok to their Instagram, and then those people purchase through Instagram. So even though they might have a lot of engagement on Facebook, like I was talking about, those vanity metrics, engagement, but no purchases, they're finding like, okay, people come from TikTok to Instagram and then buy from Instagram. So that's really valuable. So you can take into consideration like, okay, Instagram or TikTok is going to be my very top of funnel, just getting people interested in my product. And Instagram is going to be where that sale happens or where that conversion happens. So if you're really wanting to nerd out, and again, you have all that time in the world to deep dive into e-commerce data, it can provide a lot of insight to how people are using your site, where they're purchasing, where they're coming from to make those purchases, and all that information. So that is pretty much the end of all the information I have to share tonight. But I did see another question about, do you recommend selling through Pinterest? And that is a fantastic question. I definitely recommend setting up a professional or business account through Pinterest because it gives you that verified status where you can verify your e-commerce store. And then you can similarly, like I was talking about with Facebook and Instagram, you can tag your pins kind of like as a shop now. So when they click it, it also directly takes you to that product for them to check out. So yes, I didn't really get too much into Pinterest on here because it kind of varies depending on what type of products you're selling. But yes, I think Pinterest is really valuable as well. And the perk is that you can get that same kind of data and website information that I was talking about. I was using Facebook and Instagram as an example, but you can also look at what your traffic looks like coming through Pinterest. Like, are they just looking at it, or are they actually converting? Are they coming from Pinterest to your website, and then they end up following you on Instagram and purchase through Instagram? Like, just what does that traffic funnel look like and everything? So yes, Pinterest I do think is great as well. So Square One shared the link to the handout. So it is in Google Drive. It includes everything we talked about except the pro tip about using your seller's permit to get wholesale pricing on stuff like shipping supplies. And I didn't mention it, but you can even get wholesale pricing on like your goods that you're using to purchase items. Or if you're a maker, if you're trying to, like, instead of going to Joann's Fabrics to get all your stuff to make things, you can register through these sites as a wholesaler and get discounts there as well. So that was the big pro tip that was not in tonight's presentation. I also have a glossary of a lot of the things we talked about and some things we didn't necessarily talk about that usually come up when you're researching e-commerce platforms or e-commerce options. So all of that is included in tonight's handout if you want to download it. So now we can just use this time for more questions. And if you have anything else to ask or if you're curious about.
I obviously am very passionate about tape. Okay, but really though, it is always missing. I feel like a lot of people lose their scissors. We lose our tape constantly. So thank God I'm not trying to ship anything more often than like once a year. But that was a lot of like really good content and like a lot of stuff that I didn't know. And I feel like we had a lot of people watching that were taking all this information in. and letting it really like sit in their brains, and they're gonna have a lot of questions later.
It's a
So
lot, I
for you,
know.
for, yeah, for you 7 people still watching, if you have comments, if you've taken notes, if you know, wake up in the middle of the night with like this burning question that you wish you would have asked, do it. Reach out to us. We'll make sure that Erica gets your question, and we want to help you guys get the best information possible. So, that all being said, Erica, thank you so much.
You're so
Were we kind of like geeking out about how cool you are and how much we like you and how we want you to teach all the classes? Yes, we were. We're like, she's so great. Let's ask more questions about tape.
Oh, I have some custom packaging tape in that the paper tape, so it's sustainable and it has branding on it and it's absolutely beautiful.
I just feel like if we can't be passionate about tape, then what can we be passionate about?
Does anyone need branded packaging tape? I mean, it goes for a great customer experience.
Yeah, it's chalking up to customer service and you know, a part of your brand, and you're good to go.
We all like a good unboxing when we buy something.
Yeah, do you want to go viral on TikTok? Use the special tape. Well, we really appreciate your time this evening. And again, if you guys could please, 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 please fill out that survey. I don't know how many pleases that was, but I'm going to give you a few more. Please, please, please. We are grant funded through the Kauffman Foundation. Thank you, Kauffmans. But with a grant comes data collection. And
We gotta love data.
yeah, we love data because we're librarians. But if you guys could take a moment to fill out that form, it is legitimately like 4 questions. So super easy, makes my life a lot easier, makes Megan's life a lot easier, makes Brandy's life a lot easier. And Erica is gonna be awesome anyway. So yeah, if you guys could fill that information out. Oh, hi guys, you guys are popping in the comments. Where were you the whole time? Just kidding. We're glad you watched. I would just fill out the survey before you go.
I'm sure the survey is going to be easier than learning all about sales tax nexus.
Yeah,
So
I mean, if you could sit and listen to me ask a million questions about tape, you could fill out the survey. And maybe in the survey you say, Hannah talked too much about tape, and that's fine. I'll take it. I will meditate with it, and I'll do better next time.
I bet it's going to be, can you have an accountant come on and talk about sales tax?
It might be. And you know what? If it is, we will find an accountant and we will have them come on and talk all about sales tax. And we will be all very, very excited about those numbers. We'll have coffee available for that one for sure. Well, Erica, again, thank you so much. Survey. If you guys have any other questions or you want to reach out for a one-on-one, if you want to delve into some awesome resources, or if you're really excited about data and research, we are. So we want to have that conversation with you. Reach out to us at square1@mymcpl.org. We'll get connected with you. And use your libraries, you guys, and keep online shopping. Boo Amazon. I mean, kind of yay Amazon because they've got cool tape. But other than that, drop your links in the comments.
I mean, that's where I get my paper
shop.
towels. So I'll be real honest.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? I mean, could we have survived the pandemic without Amazon? I don't know, but yeah, reach out to us. Let me know if you hate Amazon, if you love Amazon. But seriously, drop the links to your online stores because I like shopping at 3 in the morning. All right, we will see you guys for the next class. Bye.
Thank you again. Bye.
Thank you.